Everybody, this is Mrs. Snook with section 8.5, factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. And our objective is to factor trinomials that are in this form. And here's an example of what one of those might look like. X squared plus 6x plus 5. So that's the type of trinomial we're looking at. There is no coefficient in front of the x squared, but you do have coefficients in front of the x, and then there's the 5. And when you're done factoring, your answer is going to look like this. You're going to have two binomials. In this case, it's going to be x plus 5 and x plus 1. And as we go through today's lesson, you will be able to factor these almost as easily as I just did. Let's go ahead and start our first problem. So here's our first problem. We have the area of a rectangular solar panel, and it's given by this trinomial x squared plus 7x plus 12. So that's our area. And the height of the panel is x plus 3. So our area is x squared plus 7x plus 12. And we know that area is the length times the height. So what we're trying to do when we're trying to find the length of this panel is we're going to start with x squared plus 7x plus 12. And we're going to factor it so we get answers in this form. One of our answers is going to be x plus 3 because that's the height that's given. And for the other one, we need to figure out something that goes here and something that goes there. Now, I do know that when I distribute this to get an x squared, I need to have an x there. And I also know that when I distribute my last terms, whatever this one is, times 3, I need to get a 12. So if I do 12 divided by 3, I get 4. So I know that a 4 can go in there. Now, as we go through today's lesson, I'm going to show you how I actually did that. And we're going to be able to do it with different kinds of trinomials. We may have some negatives in there, and I'll show you how to handle those. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the factored form of x squared plus 8x plus 15. And just like before, that means I'm going to have two binomials. And I need to find these binomials that when we distribute or FOIL or box, we end up with x squared plus 8x plus 15. Now you may recall that when we were just distributing these, we actually ended up with 4 terms. So what we have to do is we have to take this 8x and we need to split it into 2 terms, something times x plus something else times x. And that will give us our 4 terms because we'll have x squared and then plus a 15. So here's our 4 terms, an x squared plus something times x plus something else times x plus 15. So we got to figure out what 2 terms added together will give us 8. But at the same time, those terms have to multiply to get 15. So just remember from our previous exercise, I know that my first 2 terms are x because when I distribute, x times x is x squared. Now I know when I distribute my last 2 terms, they have to add up or multiply to 15. And so that means the 2 numbers that go in here, they have to have the same sign. They're either both positive or they're both negative. That's the only way to get 15. And we know they have to add to 8. So I'm going to take a look at 15, and I'm going to do my little factor tree. I know 1 times 15 equals 15. 2 doesn't work because that's even. 3 times 5 gives me 15. And then 5 times 3 gives me 15. Now, once I start doubling here, so 3 times 5 is the same thing as 5 times 3, I know I have all my factors, so I can go ahead and stop. So I know I'm going to be using 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. They have to have the same sign, and they have to add to positive 8. So for the same sign to add to positive 8, they both have to be positive. So I'm going to do a plus and a plus. So let's go ahead and add positive 1 plus positive 15. That gives me 16. That doesn't work. Positive 3 plus positive 5. That gives me 8. That does work. So my two numbers that I'm looking for are 3 and 5. So I'll put 3 here and 5 in there. And now let's go ahead and check to make sure that when I distribute, I get what I'm looking for. So let's do x times x. I get my x squared. Let's do x times 5. I get 5x. Let's do 3 times x. Oops, somehow I erased that. So 3 times x, that gives me 3x. And then 3 times 5, that gives me 15. So there's my 4 terms. And I know that when I add the 5x and the 3x together, I'm going to get 8x. So I get x squared plus 8x plus 15. And that matches. So this matches this one. So my answer for this one is x plus 3 times x plus 5. So I'm just going to show you the final answer. All right, let's take a look at another one. This time we're using r. We have r squared plus 11r plus 24. And just like last time, I'm going to end up with 2 binomials. They both have to have r in the front to get my r squared. They're going to be the same sign because I have a positive 24. This is a positive 11. So that means when I add my factors together, they need to add up to a positive 11. And the only way that happens is if they are both positive. So I'm going to put a plus and a plus. Now I'm looking for factors of 24. They're going to add and make a positive 11. So just do my factor tree. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, 6 and 4. Okay, I'm duplicating, so I'm going to stop here. All right, factors that are going to add to make 11. 1 plus 24 is 25. That doesn't work. 2 plus 12 is 14. That doesn't work. 3 plus 8 equals 11. That works. I know my two numbers are going to be 3 and 8. So 3 and 8. That one's done. Okay. That's all you have to do here for these. There's not really a whole lot of work to show. Okay, now let's look at this one. Now we have x squared minus 11x equals 24. That's similar to what we just did, but this time I have a negative 11x. And I still have a positive 24. So when I write my answer down, x goes here in my front terms. I'm looking for two numbers that have the same sign, because that positive 24 tells me same sign. Now I look at this negative 11x. That says they need to add to negative 11. So both of them have to be negative. So I'm going to do an x minus x minus. Now all I have to do is figure out what numbers go in there. I'm going to do my factor tree again. 24, 1 and 24. This time I said they're both negative. 2 and 12, both negative. 3 and 8, both negative. 4 and 6, both negative. And then I'll end up repeating. I'll have 6 and 4, so I can just stop here. Which one of these adds up to negative 11? This one right there, 3 and 8. So negative 3, negative 8. Now you might be wondering, does it matter which order I put them in? Could you do x minus 8 times x minus 3? Yes, you can. It's the same thing. You are allowed to change the order when you multiply. So since they both have the same sign, it doesn't matter. You can write it either way. Okay, I want you to try on your own. This one, we have y squared minus 6y plus 8. So please pause your video right now, and then when you come back, you can check your answer. You should have gotten y minus 4 and y minus 2. All right, next one. Now we're going to do it where we have a negative back here. So that one's a negative. That means when I am multiplying my last two terms together, there have to be opposite signs. That's the only way I can get a negative. I'm going to go ahead and set this up this way. It's going to be an x plus and an x minus because they have to have opposite signs. They're going to have opposite signs. They're going to add to a positive 2. So I'm going to take my 15. I'm going to look for factors of 15. One's positive and one is negative. So 1 and 15, I'll go ahead and make the first one positive and the second one negative. And then 2 doesn't work. 3 and positive 5, that would work. And then I have negative 5 and positive 3 and negative 15 and positive 1. So which of these combinations is going to add up to a positive 2? And it's this one right here, negative 3 plus 5. Now this does matter. The 3 has to be a negative, so I have to put the 3 here where the minus is. The 5 has to be positive, so I got to put the 5 there. And that's it. We're done. Try this one. N squared plus 9n minus 36. Go ahead, pause the video. When you come back, you can check your answer. Did you get n plus 12 and n minus 3? So another tip I can give you is when you have 1 plus and 1 minus because of this, opposite signs, the sign here is going to match the sign of the larger number. When you did your factor tree and you got 12 and negative 3, that 12 will have to be positive because that's the larger number. Okay, so now we're going to do some geometry. We have the area of a rectangle is given by the trinomial x squared minus 2x minus 35. So here's a rectangle. And I know my area, so I'm going to call this one, let's call this one the length and this one the width. And area is length times width. That's always the area of a rectangle. You take those two sides and multiply them together. So I know that my area has to equal x squared minus 2x minus 35. And I know that the length and width, I multiply those together. So if I want to find some possible dimensions for this rectangle, what I have to do is factor my trinomial. So I have a negative 35. So therefore, one of these is plus, the other is minus. I need to get x squared in front, so I always have an x. So this is going to be an x plus and an x minus. I'm going to look for factors of 35, have opposite signs, and they're going to add to a negative 2. So, negative 1 and 35, 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5 and positive 7, and then negative 7, positive 5, and then negative 35, positive 1. Which one of these adds to a negative 2? Well, that negative 2, that means our larger number should be negative. And when I look at here, I notice that I have a negative 7 plus a 5. Those add to a negative 2. And 7 is the larger number, and it is negative, so that confirms that I want that one. So then my length could be x plus 5, and my width could be x minus 7. So here are a couple possible dimensions. Just make up a number for x. Let's use 0. So length could be 0. Sorry, length could be 5. And here if I put in a 0, my width is negative 7. That's not going to work. We can't have negative lengths. So that means that I need to pick an x that's bigger than 7. So when I subtract, I get at least a positive number. So let's do this. So length is going to be here. Width is going to be here. Just to give some possible ones, let's use 8 for x. So if I use 8, my length is going to be 13, and my width is going to be 1. So my area length times width is 1 times 13. That equals 13. Now let's see if that works in our trinomial. If I put in 8 for x. So x squared minus 2x minus 35. Let's put 8 for x minus 2 times 8 minus 35. And I'm going to get a 64 minus 16 minus 35. Let me get my calculator going. 64 minus 16 minus 35. I get area equals 13, which is exactly what we said it would equal. So that's just one way to get some possible lengths. And if you wanted to do more, you could put more numbers in this table. All right, that's it for today's lesson, everybody. Thank you for watching and have a great day.